Yeah, boy. Shine, flies. No time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies. Be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
Protests and anthems, yes, we chanting for movement of people. It's like we dancing to the ministry of. It's the energy of, in memory of them that we love. The trinity of the people, the peace, the power, the truth. We speak the powers even louder. We can say it blacker, we can say it prouder. A woman vice president that went to Howard. Now we talk helping black businesses, and our differences is magnificent. Bringing light to the poor and where the prisons is. I was told good life is where forgiveness lives. The ascension is to leave what's left behind and feed the seeds with deeds that bless the mind, caress the mind, and question justify. With you and God in time, my best align.
Shine, flies. No time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies. Be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
How can I be a better father, son, a better grandson, honoring Fannie Lou's and the Fred Hamptons, the Harriets, the chariots that carry us to various areas that marry us to progress. Yeah, we the harvest, the lovely days and midnight marauders, even through charges and days of darkness. No, we in the hands of the greatest artists. I see it in the waters, I see it in our daughters. They can be bridges that know no borders. For so long, them folks try to ignore us. When we at the ballot box, it's a vote for us. Peace to Stacey and the people of Georgia, who galvanize so that we can move forward. Steps are ordered with the presence of mind. Everything's more beautiful in time.
Shine, flies. No time to waste while it's passing you by. Shine, flies. Be patient, 'cause good things happen in time. We gon' get it right. We gon' get it right.
We're going to get it right. Indeed, you are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, your host and White House correspondent, joining you live in afternoon drive time right here in LA, where I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. Be sure to follow me on all the socials at Dr. Nicordelai. Just type in Dr. NEQ, and there I am, fresh for you to follow. Also, be sure to download the KBLA app if you haven't already. That way, we get to stay connected. You take us with you. You take us with you everywhere you go, just by downloading the KBLA app. And you can also subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. That way you won't miss some of our most memorable conversations. That's where you can go. If you just have enough time to listen in on some of our favorite interviews, download the app and subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast. All right. Now, let me just say welcome. Welcome to the drive home family. 65%, a little over 60% of the country now says that the president is using his office for personal gain. That's right, 60%. And that's not a hunch. That's a verdict. This hour, the diarrhea outbreak that's sweeping the country, because apparently 2026 wasn't tired of humbling us yet. That's right. And the University of California might bring back the SAT, and that fight is about a lot more than just math scores. Then my guest, Todd Belcore, he joins me, a lawyer and organizer who's spent 20 years dismantling the new Jim Crow. And we're going to talk about Ben Crump's newest case, a disturbing AI lawsuit, and Erika Kirk's fight for courtroom transparency. Then in hour two, Black unemployment is stuck. It's stuck near 7%, while the president tells us it's the best it's ever been. We're bringing back author Darnell Lamont Walker to talk about what it means when we keep losing our young people and our peacemakers in the same news cycle. Plus, Compton Assemblyman's aide who died trying to stop the violence, Eric Washington. We're going to talk about him and a viral photo that's bigger than one woman and a bright spot. The Lucas Museum opening its doors to South LA for free. That is what we have in store for you for the next 2 hours in afternoon drive time. So let's get into it. It's time for your national news roundup. It's time for you to decide the good, bad, and ugly headlines of the day. And, well, kicking us off, here we go. Let's start with a number that should stop everybody in their tracks. New Economist YouGov poll of 60% of Americans says that Trump is using his office for personal gain, and only 27% say he isn't. Non-MAGA Republicans are split, with 34% agreeing he's using his office for personal gain. 60%. That's not a partisan gotcha number. That's a supermajority of this country looking at the same behavior we've been narrating on this show for 18 months. And finally saying out loud, yeah, we see it too. His net job approval sits at negative 25, just above his all-time low. And here's the thing about being right early. It doesn't feel like vindication. It feels like watching a slow motion car crash you called out months ago. And everybody just now grabbing their seatbelts. We don't get a parade for being right. We just get to keep telling the truth a little louder, a little longer until the room catches up. Moving along on a lighter note, and I use lighter generously, cyclospora is back. That's right. Cases of diarrhea caused by the microscopic parasite are climbing across several states, with more than 1,400 people falling ill, and the epicenter is Michigan, where more than 1,200 people have gotten sick. Ohio, New York, Illinois, Indiana, North Carolina, and Texas have also reported jumps in cases. Now, y'all, we survived a pandemic. We're watching, government shutdown vibes. We've survived that and are surviving that. And now Mother Nature said, let me just add gastrointestinal chaos to the group chat. It spread through contaminated produce and water. And so cooking your fruits and veggies and washing your produce can help reduce the risk. So make sure to wash that lettuce like your auntie's watching. Hello, because she is. Who knows? My auntie may be watching too. Who knows? But seriously, food safety oversight, it matters. And when the federal agencies get gutted or distracted, this is what falls through the cracks. A parasite, it doesn't care about your politics. It just needs an opening. And our final story for this segment, the University of California is reconsidering the SAT and ACT for admissions. More than 1,400 UC faculty have signed an open letter calling for the test to be reinstated as an admission requirement for STEM students, arguing that too many first-year students are unprepared for college-level math. One Berkeley math professor said some of her incoming freshmen can't even multiply, a skill that the state expects of third graders. Now, but here's the part that matters to us. Other faculty are against reinstating the test, saying they're biased against low-income students and that it's on the high schools to prepare students better, not on the exam to gatekeep who gets in. Former Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano warned that there's a real risk the Trump administration could weaponize SAT scores to attack admissions on the basis of test scores alone, even though California law has already barred UCs from considering race for nearly 2 decades. We've seen this playbook before. Standardized tests have never been race-neutral instruments. They've tracked family income and zip code as much as ability, going all the way back to their eugenics adjacent origins. So when they say we just want rigor, I want us asking the follow-up question. Rigor for whom? And at whose expense? Because UC's their own numbers show that first-year retention has held steady at 92%, and four-year graduation rates actually rose since the tests were dropped from 71% in 2020 to 74% today. That's not a system in crisis. That's a system that faculty are still arguing about. When we come forward, my guest, Todd Belcore, a lawyer who spent 2 decades fighting the new Jim Crow. Well, Ben Crump's got another case. And there's a disturbing new AI lawsuit. And Erika Kirk is demanding transparency in court. More with civil rights attorney Todd Belcore when we come forward. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-550-9651. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-550-9651. That's 800-550-9651. Tax Relief Advocates, real solutions for real people.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds.
Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
She's sharp. She's fearless. I don't know what they told you, but if they told you that cutting me off is how I'm going to get clicks, stop it now. She's that girl, and she's bringing all of that to your radio this summer. Amanda Seals is here. I am Amanda Seals. Comedian, artist, actress, activist, truth teller. The woman who never bites her tongue is coming to KBLA Talk 1580. And baby, the conversations are about to be unmatched. Every Friday, she's going to be lit noon to 2 p.m. and back again 4 to 6 p.m. starting Friday, July 17th. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Amanda Seals, keeping it real, keeping it raw, and keeping it rooted. Politics, pop culture, Black excellence, the stuff they don't want us talking about. Amanda's talking about all of it.
You keep interrupting me when I'm talking, and you don't want to hear the point that I'm going to make. And yet you want me to respect your point. And that's not how a debate works.
This is not your average radio show. This is a Seals Summer. Fridays, noon to 2, 4 to 6. Starting Friday, July 17th. Only on KBLA Talk 1580. Don't just listen. Tune in.
Hit me! National News The Consequence. Informed opinion. And analysis beyond the headlines. You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and always delighted to be in conversation with my friend and brother, Todd Belcore. My guest here, he is a 6-time national award-winning lawyer, mediator, advocate, and law lecturer with over 20 years serving the communities most systems have given up on, quite frankly. He is the executive director of Social Change in Chicago. It's a nonprofit that uses film, organizing, litigation, and advocacy to dismantle the new Jim Crow. Todd, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me, Doctor. How are you today amidst all the craziness of the world?
Look, we all are hanging in there, and we're just holding on to each other. That's the best we can do. Todd, let's start broad. I don't think I've ever asked you this question, so let's set the table here. When you say the new Jim Crow, a lot of our leaders, learners, and listeners know that Michelle Alexander, sort of came up with a framework that a lot of people reference today. But I want you to bring it current. What does the system look like in 2026 specifically? Because with this Trump administration and the way that they're running the government, the way that they're running agencies like ICE, I think it's important to connect the dots for people.
Yeah, the new Jim Crow is basically the evolution of slavery to modernized versions of oppression that make sure that some of the same outcomes take place in terms of a very clear caste system, very clear determination of the haves and have-nots based on melanin content and lineage and neighborhoods, without necessarily saying, well, we're not going to give you opportunities because you're Black, or you're going to get paid less because you're Black, or you're going to be subjected to substandard conditions because you're Black. Instead, it's actually as clear as, well, people with criminal records are obviously going to get jobs that don't pay as well, because who's going to trust them with a criminal record? But they control who gets criminal records by mass surveillance in our communities, by mass incarceration apparatus that ensure kids at the age of third grade are determined whether or not they're likely to go to jail or not, and all the ways in which the school-to-prison pipeline are not only alive but vibrant, and places like the South Side of Chicago and beyond. So it's just a way in which the machinations of the desire to oppress in this country have evolved to legalize it by allowing discrimination, not based on race, but based on title, based on status. And that status in this case happens to be whether people have a criminal history or not. And that's also something that the people in power have determination over who has that and who doesn't.
Yeah, and I want to pick up on that theme, the fact that people in power have the ability to, criminalize certain behaviors. They have the ability to sort of cast shadows on some of us versus other folks. And so let's bring in something that's happening right now. Ben Crump has taken on the case of Nolan Wells, the 18-year-old college athlete that was found dead after a July 4th boat trip in Mississippi. His mother said, quotes, "My heart is broken for our sweet son, who was always willing to cheer and uplift others." Todd, when a Black family has to hire a civil rights attorney just to get a transparent death investigation, what does that tell you about where we actually are?
Well, I think there's no clear example of where we are right now, when we can't get the truth unless we enlist some of the most renowned and some of the attorneys that have got the kind of biggest stick and leverage and platform, so to speak. And Ben Crump is certainly one of those. And I think it's at a time where we say Black Lives Matter, at a time where we really have marches and corporate slogans and hashtags and tiles and everything to indicate how important everyone's lives are, but particularly the way in which Black lives are forgotten about or really tossed away. This is just another example of how that fight has to be a daily fight, because there's never going to be a moment where there's not going to be an effort to devalue our life. And the fact that this mother can't get basic answers as to what happened to her child in a way that provides the full transparency that any parent would want, of any color, any background, any country, it just explains the problem inherent in America and the way things are running right now.
Talk to us about what do you make of Ben Crump taking on this case? I'm sure there are a lot of civil rights attorneys out there, yourself included, that would have been very well equipped to take on this case. Talk to us about what the benefits are for the Wells family in working with an attorney like Ben Crump at this stage in the investigation.
Well, you're right. It's actually important to highlight that this is not customary for, hiring a civil rights attorney to determine the cause of death. But the reason why it's important and really salient in this case is because this looks like it may be implicating a hate crime. This may be looking like it's implicating things that are explicitly tied to race and explicitly tied to the young man's civil rights. And that's why in this instance, it's important to call on a civil rights attorney. But generally, when you're thinking about causes of death and things like that, maybe wrongful death, a civil rights attorney is not normally where people turn. But the reason why it's so important in this particular case, because it does look like he was targeted based on his race. And if that being the case, there's no better attorney to have on that in respect to honoring and making sure people's civil rights are protected than Ben Crump. So they're right to make sure. And he was at the helm of this litigation team. And unfortunately, there's still a long way to go. But it is an important development and a thing to acknowledge that this shouldn't be a case that involves civil rights attorneys. But given where we are as a country and given the facts surrounding even what we know about this so far, it makes sense to hire him and seek him out and the platform that he has as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was just listening in on a live stream interview that Don Lemon did with Ben Crump, I think 2 days ago. And Ben Crump had mentioned that they're expecting an autopsy report, independent autopsy report this Friday. And I've got to ask you, what are some of the things that we should be looking for in that independent autopsy report that are going to help to accelerate the Wells family ability to get answers to the death of their son and seek justice?
Well, we're hoping and not hoping for two things. I mean, essentially, we're hoping that things are consistent with even the vague descriptions of what took place. So there can be more peace and some consistency in the fact patterns relating to what happened to this young man. But what I expect are there going to be significant inconsistencies and maybe even showing marks, scarring, different indications of very specific types of death, whether it be asphyxiation or things that can't be accidental. That can't comport with the facts that have been uttered by the other kids who are present, and that really implicate the reason why Ben Crump was sought out in the first place. So tomorrow is going to be a big day in terms of unveiling what those particulars are. But dead bodies don't lie. They say exactly what happened to them, and at that point, the dominoes will fall. But you're hoping for justice, but in this case, you're hoping for justice to be something that aligns with gives the families the most peace. And generally, that's just just aligning with whatever was already offered by the people who are present. But there's so many suspicions otherwise. There's reasons to suspect that won't be the case, and that will yield a lot more pain for the family, but hopefully justice in the long term.
One of the things that Ben Crump also mentioned in that interview with Don Lemon, he mentioned that the Wells family has received the phone of Nolan, and they noticed that there were some text messages that had been deleted, text messages with some of the friends who were on that boat trip. What do you make of that? If that's true, what do you make of that? In addition to the fact that it seems that a number of the young people that were on that boat have lawyered up. One of their parents is a judge and put out a statement recently, said a number of things, including that Nolan just sort of stayed behind to bum a ride with another group of kids on another boat.
Yeah, what that sounds like is testimony that's been coached, and when you have family members who are involved in the legal profession, law enforcement, things like that. I mean, it's everyone's parents' inclination to do what they can to protect their child, to make sure they have a lawyer, make sure that they're not saying anything to incriminate themselves and all those things. But generally, when those things are also happening, then in face of something much more significant is at play, something more is taking place than what was initially testified to or brought to bear. So this is definitely going to be the beginning of a longer story, not open chat based on whatever.
Yeah. We're having a little trouble with your audio, but I think we can work on that. I want to move on to the next story, which is all about AI. A lot of folks are talking about AI. It is becoming an increasingly big part of our economy, not just our economy, but economies around the world. And it's worth noting that you have AI tools that can be used for good and AI tools that can be used to exploit. let me just say this. There's an expanding class action lawsuit alleging that AI image generation tools used to create child sexual abuse materials, there's a new plaintiff that joined this lawsuit against Elon Musk's AI company, alleging its image generation models were used to create this material, and the suit was expanded to add Stability AI as a defendant. The complaint alleges that the company produced this material, benefited from trafficking ventures, and were negligent in production design. Todd, from a legal and policy lens, where does accountability actually need to land here? I mean, on the individual perpetrators or on the companies that built tools without adequate guardrails?
Well, this is the importance of having some reasonable legislation to do something to address and provide basic safeguards for AI and the ways in which it can operate no matter what. So in terms of policy, there's definitely been an intentional effort by this administration, even those locally in Illinois, to frustrate efforts to make sure that there are real, not just guardrails, but real third rails for the AI companies as they develop and use natural resources and are able and allowing themselves to be used in this way. When I say allowing themselves, let's really start getting to the legal hammer here. The whole notion of negligence is the important aspect to consider. It's not whether or not they embedded it, not whether they promoted it, is whether or not they were aware at some point in some way and did nothing or very little meaningful to address it. And I think I can imagine for them to be pursuing it to the degree in which they have and even adding other defendants, it shows in which the ways in which the AI just institution more broadly in these large corporations are just not paying enough attention to what matters most in terms of defending and protecting our communities and our families and our youth from what this leads to. So sure, these are depictions, not actual people, but I'm saying if you're allowing and fostering an environment where it caters and lends itself to trafficking and sexual abuse, it's certainly something they need to be held responsible for and do something meaningful about. And these lawsuits are the type of thing necessary to get them to do something fast and substantive.
Yeah. When we come forward, Erika Kirk wants everything in that courtroom out in the open, and Houston's DA says the feds are freezing him out of his own city's investigation. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward with civil rights attorney Todd Belcore.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nee Corte on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Chicago leaders have broken ground on the Chicago Torture Justice Memorial in Washington Park.
When this memorial is completed, it will provide a space for education, community building, remembrance.
Black Mayor Brandon Johnson and other officials say it will be the nation's first permanent memorial honoring survivors of police torture, including those harmed by former Chicago Police Commander John Burge and detectives under his command. At least 24,000 police officers may be needed for the 2028 Olympics and Paralympics in Los Angeles. A bill backed by Black Mayor Karen Bass would allow temporary certification for out-of-state officers to help staff the games. And Bone Thugs and Harmony received their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame Wednesday. Ahead of the ceremony, the legendary Cleveland rap group said the honor belongs not only to them, but also to their families, their city, their fans, and everyone who supported them from the start. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Attention Ram owners. Complete Recall 67A. Get $500 and a chance to win a getaway to Miami for two to see the final race of the season. Plus, meet Brendan Butterbean Queen. Learn more and schedule at CumminsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Coco Gauff will have to wait at least another year to win her first Wimbledon singles title. The 22-year-old African-American lost her semifinal match Thursday morning to Karolina Muchova of Czechoslovakia, 6-2, 1-6, and 7-6. Coco had a chance to win the match during the third set tiebreaker. She faltered on what should have been an easy forehand tap with Muchova out of position. This was the first time in 7 trips to Wimbledon that Coco had made it to the semifinals. The Dodgers have accepted an invitation from the White House to be honored by Trump for winning the World Series in 2025. The celebration is scheduled for July 23rd. Interesting decision by the Dodgers, who stood up to Trump's immigration raids last year in L.A. Dodger security personnel blocked ICE agents from entering Dodger Stadium property to look for suspected undocumented immigrants. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
As the poet laureate of Harlem, Langston Hughes, once said, I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes, but I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll sit at the table when company comes. Nobody dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. KBLA Talk 1580 and the Inner City Youth Orchestra of Los Angeles invite you to attend the 18th season finale concert, I Too Sing America, honoring the 250th anniversary of the United States of America, this Sunday, July 12, 3 p.m. at the Walt Disney Concert Hall. Curated by conductor Charles Dickerson and performed by the largest orchestra of color in the nation, I Too Sing America promises to be a show you won't soon forget. This Sunday, July 12, 3 p.m. at the Walt Disney Concert Hall in downtown Los Angeles. Purchase tickets at icyola.org or from the Music Center box office at musiccenter.org.
I too sing America. Let's do this.
Los Angeles is listening, and finally, Los Angeles is being heard. This is KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley. Let's get something straight, shall we? Holding a black elected official accountable is not the same as having a personal beef with them. That distinction matters, and too often it gets blurred, sometimes on purpose, I think. The minute someone raises a real concern about outcomes, about votes, about spending priorities, about broken promises, it gets reframed as an attack, as disrespect, as tearing down our own. We need to stop that, y'all. That framing does a disservice to the very communities these leaders represent. Accountability is not betrayal. Accountability is what elected office requires from everybody, regardless of the seat or who's sitting in it. Let me ask you a quick question. Do you think I have a personal beef with Donald Trump? It ain't personal. It's his anti-black policies. You feel me? So why is it always framed as personal animus when the critique is in black? See, you can miss me with that mess. Black communities have fought too hard and for too long to get representation at the table. That fight doesn't end once someone wins an election and becomes president of the country, or for that matter, the city council. If anything, it raises the stakes. Representation without results is not the goal. Representation that delivers, now that's the goal. So, in the future, when we talk about a policy failure, let's talk about the policy. Let's keep our eyes on the actual record, the votes, the budgets, the promises, the perennially missed deadlines, the outcomes in people's daily lives. Because the moment we start treating accountability as disloyalty, we lose the ability to ask for better from anyone. We must never surrender our agency to be outraged when our leaders underperform. Our communities deserve leaders who welcome scrutiny, not ones who hide behind identity to avoid it. Now, let me put my hard hat on, go back outside, and see if these procrastination Crenshaw construction crews have shown up yet. I'm saving space for grace, but if these trucks don't show up soon, well, you already know. With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Tavis Smiley, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
back to building a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and always great to be in conversation with civil rights attorney Todd Belcore. He's also the executive director of Social Change Chicago. Quick update on a story that we covered yesterday, the Houston ice shooting. The ice shooting death of Lorenzo Salgado Araujo. The Harris County District Attorney says that federal authorities have sidelined local officials from participating in the investigation. DA Sean Tier said that his office does not, quote, have the same level of access that we do in almost any other officer-involved shooting, adding, quote, I can tell you unequivocally, we don't have everything. Todd, as a lawyer, what does it mean structurally when federal agencies can simply lock local prosecutors out of investigations when a death has happened in their own county?
Well, it becomes really complicated when you're not getting access to all the evidence you need in order to consider the implication. Sorry, my sound has been a little in and out. But it becomes a major hurdle when any prosecutor or even a defense attorney, whomever, is intentionally obstructed from obtaining the evidence they need in order to see the full lay of the land in terms of the facts revolving around a particular case. And when the facts are actually being withheld by another governmental institution, that becomes even more of a complicating variable, because then it's a lot more difficult to pry them from because there's other claims and arguments to be made as to why governments need to retain and maintain the confidentiality of certain documents to keep things sealed. But short of making those arguments in front of the judge about why things need to be under seal and inaccessible or inadmissible, those are two separate concepts. Of this looks just like blatant obstruction. And it doesn't look like the federal government's made a compelling case as to why this is not admissible, and certainly not why it should be sealed and accessible. So this looks like the best case scenario is just the other entities are overwhelmed and unable to provide it, but it looks like there's actual stonewalling taking place here to objectively and clearly prevent access, in which case this lends itself to more charges relating to obstruction, corruption, and other things that you don't want to be associated with your government. And unfortunately, that's where we are.
Yeah. I mean, it's real unfortunate, and it's also a part of a pattern. I mean, this isn't the first time that we've seen this federal government attempt to sideline local law enforcement. And just moments ago, we were talking about the tragedy that is unfolding in Mississippi, the tragedy involving Nolan Wells in Mississippi, the 18-year-old that was found dead after a July 4th boat trip in Mississippi. I'm already starting to see some parallels. One of the things that Ben Crump mentioned during a recent interview with Don Lemon, he talked about he talked about how this go round, it's not like they can turn to the Department of Justice. Back when it was the Biden Department of Justice, they could turn to the Civil Rights Division there. The Civil Rights Division has been significantly downgraded, really eviscerated by the Trump administration. And so Ben Crump made the point that they have to lean in and work with state and local law enforcement. What do you make of this moment that we find ourselves in, where leaders on the front lines like yourself, civil rights attorneys, perhaps have less tools in their toolbox than they did just a couple years ago, when the feds Bigfoot them in places like Mississippi and in places like Houston, Texas?
Yeah, it does an incredible amount to cripple the ability of civil rights attorneys to ensure and exact the justice that clients and communities in our country deserve, frankly. When you don't have the power, the leverage to ensure that you get all the facts, to ensure that you get a fair hearing, to ensure that the client has a chance to have their fair day and tell their full story, dead or alive, that really weakens not only that person's case, but the credibility of the entire legal system, the entire courts, the entire institutions. So it is a very scary time when these are not just concerns but facts. Things are actually taking place, and we're seeing in real time. Thankfully, I mean, science is what it is. So the autopsy would provide some clear evidence one way or the other. But there's an infinite number of cases, including things like this ICE shooting, where evidence will be withheld or become more difficult to obtain, or other things will be done to make it harder for any sort of outcome to take place that does not paint this administration in a good light. So I think as we head towards midterms and other opportunities for the American people to weigh in on how they feel about this more broadly, it's important to pay attention to not only how these cases are being handled and held, but how the institutions are being regarded by the administration and the risk associated with them continue to weaken in terms of what it means for the life of people who are looking for their day in court, looking for justice, or just their civil rights being respected at a bare minimum.
Yeah. I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about Erika Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk. She's asked the judge in Tyler Robinson's preliminary hearing to make every piece of evidence, every last piece of evidence visible to everyone in the courtroom. Her filing argued that receiving evidence, quotes, in a manner shielded from those seated in the courtroom is not transparency, warning that it will only fuel more conspiracy theories. And so the judge ruled that the court could continue its existing process rather than show all evidence to the full courtroom. Todd, whatever people's politics are on Charlie Kirk, is Erika Kirk actually onto something here about how the public loses trust in the system when proceedings feel opaque?
I think she is, and I think this is an important thing to highlight. It's not just about whether or not Black and Brown people are not getting their day in court. At the end of the day, the entire institution is losing credibility. And when you see people like Erika Kirk, in addition to the Wells family, in addition to the victims of people who've lost their lives at the hand of ICE, that's an interesting set of people experiencing the same sort of phenomena of being denied basic access to all the things generally promised by the court in terms of due process and access to evidence and just basic guarantees of fairness. So I think it's important when you're talking about particularly something as high profile as these cases, and it's particularly talking about someone who wants evidence of their own loved ones loss to be made public, that they adhere to that they honor that, in any effort to do otherwise, in the face of the additional pain that would cause a family who's actually asking for it, and they're willing to take that on in order to ensure there's transparency, shows there's something else afoot, there's something amiss, something awry, that I think just kind of gets to the heart of what's the concern for all these cases. So props to her for coming out and calling for that. And we'll see how she's responded to and how her efforts are addressed and responded to, in contrast to the efforts of the DA and the Wells family, to kind of see exactly how things are treated differently based on different status and things like that. That will definitely lend itself to more kind of, at the very least, water cooler talk, but certainly some legal conversations and issues of discrimination and access. But we'll see how it goes. But unfortunately, right now, there's not an angle you can look at where you can be excited about the way in which the legal community is being represented, the courts as an institution are carrying themselves, and that incredibly important pillar of this democracy is holding up.
Todd Belcore, Executive Director of Social Change, thank you for the clarity. And where can people go to check out the work, to tap into the work that you're leading in Chicago and beyond?
Absolutely, and thank you for the segue, Doctor. I mean, at the end of the day, there is no silver bullet to deal with all the things that ail our communities. But one thing that was said by Brother Smiley and has always been highlighted by you, good doctor, is it's not just about representation, it's about results. And we need to make sure that the people who are in office, the people who are running for office are held accountable. And that's through voting, getting out to vote and making sure you're maintaining participation in the process every day thereafter. So please join us in our continued efforts to make sure we're meeting community need and encouraging people to get out and vote and getting people registered and beyond. But also, people are just despondent right now. People are losing trust in everything. So to build that, you have to build community, and that starts with the grassroots. So join us as we give people food and access to healthcare, some of the basic needs people need. And socialchange.site is the website to tap into, or Shy Social Change on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. At the end of the day, we need you. This is important to talk about. It's even more important to do something about. So jump in and get involved.
Our thanks to you. Before we close the hour, a story about California universities that own more firepower than some small armies. Grenades, submachine guns on college campuses. We'll explain when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We got a lot to talk about.
I think my LADWP bill is due, but nothing's come in the mail yet.
You still get paper bills?
Yeah, it's how I keep track of things.
Clearly, it's not working. You can't remember when it's due. You need to sign up for paperless billing. I get an email when my LADWP bill is due. I never have to wait on the mail, and I can see 7 years of bills in my online account. Plus, first-time signups get a $10 bill credit.
$10 bill credit for new LADWP paperless billing signups. LADWP.com/paperless.
Going to a World Cup match in LA this summer? Ditch the parking stress and ride Metro. With direct service from across LA County, it's the easy way to get there for just $1.75 each way.
Listen up, KBLA delegation. We have something you need to hear. Right now, you may qualify for low-cost home internet. We're not talking about a catch. This is real. Many internet service providers offer low-cost internet plans if anyone in your household is enrolled in CalFresh, Medi-Cal, SSI, or is income eligible. There are a lot of families in our community who deserve to be connected. Here's all you do. Call 844-461-7893. That's the Get Connected call center. Real people ready to help you enroll today. Or go online to internetforallnow.org to find a provider near you. You may also qualify for a low-cost computer through Human IT. Connectivity is not a luxury. In 2026, it's a necessity, and you deserve access just like everybody else. Call 844-461-7893. That's 844-461-7893. KBLA's got you. If you missed any of this, you can always go to our website at KBLA1580.com. Brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 in partnership with the California Emerging Technology Fund, CETF.
This November, you'll decide who leads California. So shouldn't you hear directly from the people asking for your vote? Join us for California Voices, a political town hall and ballot forum, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026. Meet candidates running for governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and other major statewide and local offices, including mayor of Los Angeles, city attorney, and LA County sheriff. Get clear, nonpartisan breakdowns of the propositions on your November ballot, both sides, no spin. And ask your questions directly, in real conversation, face to face. California Voices is brought to you by KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, giving you the information you need before you vote. Mark your calendar, Saturday, October 3rd, 2026, California Voices. Follow KBLA 1580 for details and download the KBLA 1580 app. Your vote, your voice. Be there.
We face tragedy, but we don't fall into despair. We continue our work to build a more perfect union.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and guess what? It is time. It's time for what? It's time for the quiet part out loud. And let me just say, a Cal Matters investigation just dropped, and I really need you to sit with this. Public colleges and universities across California own military-grade weapons. Did you know that? I'm talking about weapons like AR-15s, stun grenades designed to cause temporary blindness, and sonic weapons so loud that they're known in the armed forces as the voice of God. San Jose State's police department owns 33 tear gas grenades and a submachine gun that isn't even authorized under California state policy. Take that in for a minute. A submachine gun on a college campus where the biggest security threat is usually a freshman who forgot his student ID. But in all seriousness, here's what stuck with me. A student at Mount San Antonio College said that fellow students, especially veterans and students of color, were uncomfortable watching their campus quietly militarize, fearing what it would mean for the peaceful but active protest culture on their campus. Let me just tell you, that instinct is correct. We know historically exactly whose bodies get met with military hardware first when campuses, quote, prepare for unrest. And it's rarely the kids in the frat houses. To San Jose State's credit, their police captain said of the grenades, quote, "We will never use them," and announced plans to destroy them along with submachine guns. Good. I think that's the correct answer, don't you? But now let's make sure that every other campus with a closet full of war zone equipment gets asked the same question publicly before it becomes a headline for the wrong reason. You know, one of the things that also stood out to me with this story is, well, if the San Jose State's police captain said of the grenades that we're never going to use them, well, then why do you have them? Why did you purchase them? I mean, certainly somebody had to use their budget to purchase those grenades. Why do you have them? In fact, you know, this is probably a good time for a lot of police departments and public safety departments on college campuses across the state to do an inventory of exactly what do you have? Where is the leadership that's asking, why do we need this? Questions that need answers. The question that also looms large: what folks in positions of power, influence, and authority actually have the courage to ask the hard questions? And so, no, everybody's chilling over the summer, but after Labor Day, when folks get back on the grind, when folks get back out on the campaign trail, these are some important questions we should be asking of our public officials. And so don't just ask them for a selfie. Ask them where they stand. Ask them what they're doing with the power invested in them to make sure that college campuses, wherever you are, that their law enforcement isn't just purchasing up weapons and toys because they can. Because they can. That's hour one. When we come forward, Black unemployment, it's stuck near 7%, while the president insists that it's never been better. Remember way back when he was running for president? I think this was the first run for president, when he got up there and he famously said to the audience, speaking directly to Black folks, he said, "Hey, what do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? Well, it turns out we have quite a bit to lose. It turns out we've actually lost quite a bit. When you think of Black unemployment and some of the folks who've been hardest hit, the numbers with Black women alone are absolutely staggering. And the unemployment rate hardly makes the headlines. People are hardly even talking about it because everybody's so AI obsessed. Everybody's so obsessed about the creative economy. But we're not talking about the folks among us that have already been displaced by this economy. And so we're going to get into that in hour two. Also, the FBI is warning about something that's happening to our kids online that every parent needs to hear. And we're bringing back author Darnell Lamont Walker to help us process the Nolan Wells case, the loss of gun violence prevention advocate Eric Washington in Compton, and what it means when we keep losing our young people, when we keep losing our peacemakers in the same breath. I know the interview that we did with California State Assembly member Mike Gibson earlier this week has certainly stuck with me, and chances are it likely stuck with you. He said a lot of things in paying tribute to Eric Washington that had me thinking, I think Darnell is the right person to talk to at the end of the week to help us all process this. And so I'm so delighted that he agreed to join us in this upcoming hour. Plus, a viral photo bigger than one woman, and the Lucas Museum opening its doors for free to South LA. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward in our next hour.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Amber Payton with BIN News Now. Chicago leaders have broken ground on the Chicago Torture Justice Memorial in Washington Park.
When this memorial is completed, it will provide a space for education, community building, remembrance.
Black Mayor Brandon Johnson and other officials say it will be the nation's first permanent memorial honoring survivors of police torture, including those harmed by former Chicago Police Commander John Burge and detectives under his command. At least 24,000 police officers may be needed for the 2028 Olympics and Paralympics in Los Angeles. A bill backed by Black Mayor Karen Bass would allow temporary certification for out-of-state officers to help staff the games. And Bone Thugs and Harmony received their star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame Wednesday. Ahead of the ceremony, the legendary Cleveland rap group said the honor belongs not only to them, but also to their families, their city, their fans, and everyone who supported them from the start. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Attention Ram owners. Complete Recall 67A. Get $500 and a chance to win a getaway to Miami for two to see the final race of the season. Plus, meet Brendan Butterbean Queen. Learn more and schedule at CumminsRecall.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Coco Gauff will have to wait at least another year to win her first Wimbledon singles title. The 22-year-old African-American lost her semifinal match Thursday morning to Karolina Muchova of Czechoslovakia, 6-2, 1-6, and 7-6. Coco had a chance to win the match during the third set tiebreaker. She faltered on what should have been an easy forehand tap with Muchova out of position. This was the first time in 7 trips to Wimbledon